Persona 5 Royal has a lot of awesome and creative bosses that make the game fun, but there are also some really bad ones, and today we're talking about Okumura, who I think is the worst boss in the game. Considering the results of this poll I ran on the channel recently, it's clear that you guys hate Okumura's boss fight way more than any other in Persona 5. But you don't just dislike him compared to other bosses, no, you even picked him as being worse than Morgana and Teddy in this poll. Yeah, virtually nobody likes Okumura, but what is it about this boss's design that is so disliked? To start with, the fight has a huge difficulty spike. The enemies in his palace are extremely easy, which results in players being caught off guard later on. On top of that, you can get through most bosses even if you deal low damage, so long as you have the healing items, SP items, and patience to commit. But Okumura's fight is even more of a difficulty spike for players who do this, since it's one big test of how much damage you can do. Plus, you can't use all-out attacks at any point, which means you lose a big source of damage that some players have been relying on for most or all of the game so far. And unlike every other boss before Okumura, this one forces in a time limit mechanic, where you instantly lose if you don't beat him before the time runs out. In most other boss fights, this wouldn't be much of an issue, but in Okumura's, it's made worse by the other challenging elements. You have to fight several waves of robots who not only have different weaknesses, but also resist almost everything but their weaknesses. And if that wasn't bad enough, the wave of robots you're fighting will run away if you don't beat them in 2 turns, causing a new wave of the same robots to spawn in their place, which is effectively a huge DPS check. Additionally, the robots are harder to beat in time than they otherwise would be, because Okumura can raise one robot's defense, forcing you to spend a turn removing that buff or risk not doing enough damage to beat him, or potentially inflict your entire party with hunger, which massively reduces your damage. And like I said before, you can't use all-out attacks, so all these things combined make it highly likely that you don't beat the whole wave before they run away. And if that happens, not only did you spend your SP for nothing, but your time as well, and you only have 30 minutes to beat Okumura before you instantly lose. The other key factor slowing you down is the fact that Okumura does a few things to force you to spend more turns healing instead of attacking. For instance, he can have the robots target one person at a time instead of spreading out the damage, requiring you to heal that person very frequently, and slowing you down when you try to go on the offensive. And if that weren't enough, he can lower one or every party member's defense as well. Okay, so the fight is really bad, but what are some practical ways to fix this boss? Honestly, even something as simple as giving the later robots less health or giving the player one more turn to beat them before they run away, at least for the harder waves, would probably go a long way in making this fight less painful, especially for newer players. I don't think this change would disrupt the challenge too much either. Okumura would remain solid for those who do actually enjoy this boss and don't want to see him nerfed too hard. And if you hate Okumura and want to see the worst palace in Persona 5 Royal, then watch this video too.